Good morning, grade fives. Hello. The reasons this is actually my second time doing the same lesson. So I first recorded the same lesson that I'm about to teach you on my easel, like I normally do on my board. But I got I'm a perfectionist, so we're looking on bar graphs and such, the lines were bothering me, it wasn't perfect, and I really wanted to do on graph paper so I can show you exactly how everything is supposed to look. Hence, I'm doing this for the second time on graph paper, but that's okay, it'll be worth it. So all you'll need today is your math notebook, a pencil, I would grab a highlighter, a ruler, and that's probably it. So go grab that if you don't have that. And then so our date, please write that at the top. Our title, which is single bar graph. So let's just quickly review while you're setting up and you're writing those two things down. So yesterday we learned about the 5 different parts of a graph. Okay, do you remember them? Can you maybe count with me? First, it was the title, right? That's the heading of your information. It's a heading of your graph. Then it's your X and Y axes. So those are your side headings, right? Those are their side, they're either going this way, which is your Y, and this is your X. Then we looked at your scale. Those were the intervals that are going up by, right? Whether I'm going up by 1s, 10s, 5s, whatever. Then you had a legend. Now legend won't come until we start doing double bar graphs. So we can just put that aside for now. And the last thing was your actual data, which will be our bar graph. So today we're actually going to make and construct a single bar graph. And I'm going to ask you to make sure you follow along with me so you know exactly, because and I probably really like graphing unit because it's a very particular, it's very specific on where things should be and the lines, how they should be. So I think that's why I kind of really like it. So title, single bar graph. And then let's get our title going. Our I can statement going. So I can construct a single bar graph using all 5 parts of a graph. And then please highlight that. Okay, so I can construct a single bar graph using all 5 parts of a graph. No, I can finally highlight because I'm not on the board. Hopefully it's... Yay! Okay, now, so yesterday, when we looked at those 5 parts, you know that in order to start any graph, whatever type of graph it is, you need to have the information. So last week when you gathered the information, you had information about the different, whatever your question was about family. Now you need to have that chart. So let's pretend when we were in class, and I've given you this data. So let me give you this data. Let me draw. Obviously you need to have some information. So I will draw this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I'll say favorite sport. So I did one about favorite sports in grade 11. So this is just a random example. Then we can say tally. And then we can say total. So this is just like you did, and just like we did last week in gathering data, right? So this is, now, if I was the one, let's just do a quick review on first-hand and second-hand data. Since I was the one to collect this information, you didn't go find out, so you don't even know which grade 11 class this is, right? So like Miss Mavish went and asked the students in one of the grade 11 classes about what their favorite sports are. Is that first-hand data for me or second-hand data? So Miss Mavish, so I went and asked a class all these questions, and I said, what's your favorite sport? What's your favorite sport? So for me, is it first-hand or second-hand? Hopefully you're saying first-hand, because yes, for me, it's first-hand. But now, look at what we're doing. So I got the information, and now I'm giving you the information. I am giving you this data. So for you, what is it? So I went and collected it. So for me, this is firsthand. But for you, this information is going to be secondhand because you didn't go asking the questions. Just a quick review on that. Okay, so let's say favorite sports. I give them the options of swimming, football, or as I know it as soccer, badminton, and hockey. So you always have to start off with the information, right? And then maybe there were 1, 2, 3, 4 students, right, that said they liked swimming. Maybe there were 12 students, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Maybe there were 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then maybe there were just 1, 2, 3. 3 students. So this is the starting. You have to have the data in order to graph it. If I didn't have this, I can't do a graph. What am I going to graph, right? So you need to have the information. And I provided it for you. And because I provided it for you, it is secondhand data for you, but it's firsthand data for me because I collected this. Okay, now you can finally start your graph. So now I want you to always remember those 5 parts. Don't forget those 5 parts that we learned yesterday. Okay, so let's start and always think of it in order. What was the first thing? Go back to your book, flip your notebooks if you need to. What was the first thing you should have? Your title, correct. So what would be a good title to represent this data? What is a good title? What would be an appropriate title? Because it's the heading. So the information represents favorite sports in grade 11. Perfect. So that will be my heading, and I'm going to put that right on the top. Favorite sports in grade 11. And notice how I put it in the center, right? I'm not putting it right here because we know my graph is going to be around here. I'm putting it in the middle. So that's favorite sports in grade 11. We're already done part 1. Number 1, done. We're done our title. Number 2 was drawing our graph, right? And then doing our X and Y axes. Okay, so I'm going to just shift this a little bit here. Okay, now let's start drawing our graph. So, and I will do it. So do you notice? And look at where the reason I really want to do graph paper is so you can see how I form this. So this is my red line. I'm not going to draw it right on the red line. I'm going to leave maybe 2 boxes. Right? I'm going to leave 2 just so I have some space. And then I'm going to draw a line. I'll stop there. So maybe about that long. And then same thing, I'm going to go across. And don't go all the way down, right? We need some space for the headings. Well, if you remember, our headings for our axes. So we need to label our y-axes and x-axes. Okay, don't forget. And I'll write it in pencil because it's not really part of the graph, but I'll just as a reminder. So y-axes. This is our y-axes, okay? And maybe I'll just put the pencils as so this is title. Maybe I'll put in a bubble to remind you the 5 elements. Title, our y-axes, and our x-axes. Put it down here. And the reason I'm putting in pencil is because it's sort of supposed to not be visible. So normally when you do a graph, you don't write this, but just since this is our first one, I'll write it in. So that was number 1, check, we're done. Y-axis, x-axis, we're not quite done yet. We need to label it. So now what are my 2 different factors? What are my 2 parts of the graph? And it's always in the chart. So what are my 2 parts? It's sports, and then it's my total, right? These are the same thing. This is just in checks and this is total. So I have my number of students, right? This is my total. And maybe I could have even written in total number of students. So which one is going to go where though? And sometimes students get this confused. And it's an easy rule. Always put the words here and put the numbers here because this is the scale. So the words will go here. So my words, which is my favorite sport, will go at the bottom. So I'm going to put my heading here. Favorite. Favorite, oh my gosh, oh no, okay, I'll just cross it out. Favorite sport, or you could have said type of sport. It's all similar, that's fine. Okay, and then this is going to be, what is this going to be? My total number of students. So I can say, and I'm going to shift it because I do want to write it this way. I'll say number of students, and we can get a little bit more specific because we do know a little bit more specific. They're in grade 11. So we can say in grade 11. So that's what we should have so far. Okay, so we've got our title, we've got our heading. We're not quite done our X and Y, but we've got the heading so far. Now we can do the rest of it. It's bothering me. Now we can fill in the second part of the headings. Now, what are my favorite sports? I know them, right? I know what they are. There's 4. Now, and this is where the very specific, and it's not a mismatched thing. This is just how graph is. You have to be very specific on how you're labeling them. So, and I'll do this in pencil. You're not going to, I'll do this in pencil because I'm going to erase it in a few minutes. You're not going to, oh, my favorite sports. You're not going to put swimming and then football and then badminton. Oh, and Miss Mavish had so much space, and you're going to put hockey there. You're not doing that, right? That, first of all, looks very silly. It's very squished, and then it's not evenly distributed. So it has to be very equal. And what I mean about that is, so look, count the boxes you have. See the boxes you have. You need to have the same difference between each of them. So let's start with the first one. So the first one is swimming. So I'm going to, I'm going to leave one box. I want you to leave one box and then write swimming. And maybe I'm going to use 3 boxes for each of them. So maybe I'll do like from here to here is swimming. Okay, so I've left one box and I put a little tick so you can see, and I'm going to use 1, 2, 3 columns for swimming. Then I'm going to skip another one. You don't want it to be squished, right? Remember, we want to spread the data out. You're going to skip one again. And again, I'm going to mark 3 for, what's my next one? Football. We want it to be very, very neat. That's why I'm doing it on grid paper. That's why I'm not doing it on my easel. Again, I'm going to skip 1, and I'm going to do 3 for badminton. And then last one, skip 1, and then 1, 2, 3, hockey. Okay, see how much neater that is? And they're even, right? There's a space between each of them, and then there's 3 boxes for each of the categories. It needs to be that neat. It's not me being picky. Graphs have to be very neat. Because when I'm reading a graph, I want it to be organized and clean. If it's really messy, and it's very distracting, graphs would be pointless. So we need 1 space, then 1, 2, 3. 1 space, 1, 2, 3. Now, obviously you could do 1 space and then do 2, but just because my words are long, I've kept them 1, 2, 3. Okay? Now, we're almost done. So we're done our x-axis. We've got our heading and then our subheadings. Then we've got our y-axis, our number of students in grade 11, but now we need to fill it in. So we're on to our third part, which is our scale, and I'll put it like this. S-C-A-L-E, bubble that, our scale. Okay, now I need to label my scale. Before we put any numbers, you need to figure out, okay, in your mind, your thought bubble should be saying, what is a good scale or interval I should go up by, right? And a hint for you is to think about the smallest and largest number in your chart. So what's my smallest number that I need to graph? So in a few moments when I do graph, what's the smallest number I will be graphing? 3, right? That's my smallest. So I need to have something as small as 3. And what's my largest number? What's my greatest number? 12. So I know that I need to at least go up to 12. It has to be at least 12. I can have a little bit more than 12. So do you think my intervals are going to be going up by 20s? Am I going to have? And remember, let me do this in green. You always start with 0, so I'm going to put 0 there automatically. Do you think I'm going to start with 20s? So I'm going to say 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, or even if I skip a line, 20, 40. Does that make sense for this information? Going up by 20s? No, it doesn't, because the largest number is less than 20 in itself. So my graph would be like right here, and that doesn't make sense. We want to spread it out. Like I have half a page here. So I want to spread the data out. So if I know I need to go up to 12, I have enough space to go up by ones. I could go up by maybe twos, right? Maybe I want to do twos just because I want to make it really spread out. So let's do that. You can also do ones. You could do twos. Threes might actually work too. But anything that's too large, I would not work for this small data, right? If I was talking about, if my data had, maybe I was asking all the grade 11s in high school, and that's CIS, and maybe my numbers were in 20s and 30s, then of course, maybe going up by fives would make sense. But my data is so small, right, just one class, it only makes sense for me to either go up by ones or maybe twos. So maybe we'll do twos, just because, why not, right? Let's just do the twos. So I've got 0 here. And now you can do a few things. You could go, and I'll do it in pencil, you could do every box as 2, right? I can do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Now that's not technically wrong, but what's the problem though? If I went up by twos for every one box, because I still want to go up by twos, right? But what's the problem here though? Do you see? I have this whole graph. My graph is only going to, again, be over here, and I have this whole empty space. So, easy solution. So, even if Miss Mavish says, oops, I want to go up by twos, but we can use spacing, right? We can always space it out. So, instead of doing every one box, maybe I'll do every 2 box. Let me just make sure I've got 2. Yeah, maybe every 2 box. I'll say every 2 is 2, right? So, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Much, so see, it's more spread out. And maybe just because my largest number is 12, I might just go one more, 14, just in case, right? Just to have a little bit more space, right? So I've gone up by twos, and I've spread it out, so that looks a much more neater than if it was just squished down here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and just kind of ends here, okay? Now we can start graphing, but before we start graphing our data, quick question for you. If this is 2, and this is 4, and this is 6, and whatever, where is 1 and 3 and 5? They're not labeled, but are they there, or do they just not exist? Because eventually, I have to graph 3. So I'm going to ask that. When I come to 3, you're going to tell me where it is. You're going to tell me through your laptop. So let's start graphing now. So swimming, there were 4 students. So I need to graph. So I'm at swimming here, and I have 4 students. So I'm going to look at my scale. Okay, where do I see 4? Right here. So I know, and I can use my pencil at this point. I know that swimming needs to be over here. And a good use is to use your ruler, so then I can say, oh, okay, I'm at 4, so I'm over here. I just want it for swimming, so swimming is here, right? And then I can, this is why I really, really love that I did grid paper there. So that's 3, and then I can I'll use a highlighter just to color it in, and I'm just going to color that in. There we go. That tells me that for swimming, there were 4 students whose favorite sport is swimming. That's one fact I can see right away. That's one finding. That was one of the questions on the quiz, which a lot of you did not do well on. One of the facts or the findings I can tell already from this graph is that 4 grade 11 students love swimming. Okay, let's go to the next one, football. How many students love football? 12 students. So again, I'm going to grab my ruler. I'm going to go find 12 on the scale, and I've got, okay, I'm on 12, so I place it on. It just helps me. I put it right on 12, and I'm going to grab my pencil. And this is where you need to be careful. So football is over here. So this is football. And I had 3 boxes, right? So there we go, 1, 2, 3. And then use my ruler. Draw and draw. There we go. And then again, we can color it in. Oops. And because we've spaced it out, right? Do you remember when we were doing the scale, we've spaced it out, you'll notice, and let me just finish this coloring. Sorry if it's not perfect, but you get my point. Okay, do you see how we have left that space? Which is so, if we hadn't left that space, it would have been so squashed, right? It would have been just touching each other, and we don't. We want a space. It's very clear. I can clearly tell. Another finding would be that there's 12 grade 11 students who love football. Excellent. Next, second last, number badminton, 6. So try doing that with me. Go on the scale, find 6. Put my ruler across it. Okay, I'm at badminton. I'm going to draw the lines, right? Perfect. Then I'm going to color it in. There we go. See? Again, space, space. Last one, hockey. Now, this is what I was saying earlier, right? So you're probably, hopefully you're not thinking this, but you might say, well, where's 3 on this scale? That's where you just have to use your application skills. So if this is 0, this is 2, and this is 4, where is 3? Where would 3 be on the scale? This is 0, this is 2, this is 4. 3, we know, comes between 2 and 4, so it would be in the middle. So this is 2, and this is 4, so it would come in the middle. And you're lucky that it's one of the boxes, so this would be 3. Right? So now maybe I'll just put it here. This is 3. It's invisible. You can't see it, but it's there. It's still there. It's just not written out because we didn't want to. We could have written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Totally. That's not wrong, but it's very messy. It's just too much. We want to be as neat and provide as little information, but still get the data across. Right? We don't want to squish anything. That's why we have spaces between our bars, right? And then this is your data. And I'll put it in a little bubble for all the elements. That's all your data. And that is your single bar graph. Let's just quickly review while we wrap up. That's how you take your chart, your data, which we all had from last Wednesday or Thursday, and this is what I've provided you. We all had all the 5 elements. So we had a title, so favorite sports in grade 11, which is whatever your topic is. You had your X and Y axes, so this is your Y axis, this is your X axis, and remember, you always have 2 parts here. Some students tend to forget one or the other. There's heading. There's 2 headings on this side, and there's 2 headings on this side. So there's always, think of these as like titles, and then these are like subtitles, or maybe like little topics. Okay, and this is also your scale, which is number 3 is your scale. Remember, scale is just what the interval you're going up by. That you decide. I never tell you, I won't tell you in my chart, go up by 2s, go up by 1s. You need to make an educated decision and say, you know what, 2s would make sense because my smallest number is 3, but my biggest number is only 12, and so I don't need that much space, right? And then you graph your data. Now, in this case, like I said, the 5th element that we don't have is legend, but we don't need a legend because there's only 1 information. It's just the number of students. Soon, we're going to start looking at double bar graphs. Tomorrow, actually, we're going to look at double bar graphs and how double bar graphs will have and why they have 2 bars and what that tells us. Okay? So tomorrow, and you can probably do that now too, but tomorrow you're going to be doing double bar graphs. But today, so after you've written these notes down, I want you to go back to that chart that you gathered on Wednesday. So remember on Wednesday when you went around and asked your family members what their favorite iftar food was, or some of you asked what your favorite fruit was, or whatever it is, I want you to flip the page and I want you to make your own single bar graph. I want you to take that chart that you did on Wednesday or Thursday, right? Everyone had a question. Everyone asked their family members something, and I want you to do it on your own just to get some practice because tomorrow I'm moving on to double bar graphs, okay? And that's it. As long as you have the 5 elements, title, X, Y, X, scale, data, and then legend for tomorrow because we're moving on because single bar graph is a major review. It's not a big lesson for grade 5, okay? Because that was from grade 4. Hopefully that makes sense. Message me if you have any questions, and then we can move on to double bar graphs tomorrow. I will see you when I see you. Bye.